everyone. My name is Shanaya Achieved, and I recently scored a 760 on the GMAT. And I actually started at a 610 when I first took my GMAT practice test at home. So I knew I had a really long way to go. So my goal really was a 730. And, when I got that 610, I thought to myself, what are some steps I can take to get to that 730? It's a very long way to go. Is it even possible for me to get to that 730? So I started researching on Reddit and GMAT Club and kind of, looking at what worked for a lot of people and tried to understand what were some of the best test prep resources out there, because I knew that was something I was going to need moving forward if I was going to improve my score, especially because quant was something I hadn't experienced in the classroom in a very long time. I didn't take a single quant class actually in undergrad. So I knew that, with a little bit of studying, I could definitely improve my quant because quant was something I was very strong at in high school, but, that was a really long time ago. So, looking for a good quant resource, and then also verbal has always been something on standardized tests that has been kind of one of my weak points. So I also wanted something that could target both the quant and the verbal aspects very equally. Nothing that was going to be stronger than the other, because I know both are very important to improving that score all the way to a 730. So, after going through, some of those resources and reading what people had to say, I gave Target Test Prep a shot. And before I even bought the program, I took advantage of the diagnostic test that they provided. And so through that diagnostic test, I could see where my weak points are and how Target Test Prep could specifically help me mitigate those weak points and improve them. And so, I decided to go with Target Test Prep. I ended up buying the 4-month plan straight off the bat because I figured that, it would probably take at least 2 months of studying for me to kind of see a good amount of improvement, given that I had to juggle it with work. And then another factor to consider was, in case I want to take it again, I would have a Target Test Prep still available to me. And so I started out Target Test Prep with that, like I said, that diagnostic test. And I actually went ahead and started from the very top, from the quant, basics of quant, what are prime numbers, what is a factorial, kind of, the nuts and bolts that is kind of going to lay the foundation for all the more, crazy, difficult questions that come down the line. So I ended up going through each mission. They have different missions on Target Test Prep that you can go through very in depth. First, you read the lessons, and then you go through and do the chapter tests. And they actually have tests that are easy difficulty, medium difficulty, and then hard. So you can really, kind of decide where you want to be in that subject. And then I went through each of those missions, and I actually went through all the quant first. I really wanted to get a good, strong foothold under the quant before I went into the verbal. And I also think I was procrastinating the verbal a bit just because it wasn't my strongest subject. And so, I got the quant under my belt. TTP was amazing for quant. I personally went and only did the tests, the chapters that were, I knew I didn't know very well, versus some of them I was, algebra, for example, was something that I felt very confident in. So I didn't go and actually read through those lessons, but, to each their own. And I think that whatever, if you want to cover all your bases or if you want to cover just your weak point, Target Test Prep has it all, and it's very easy to do it either way. So I really like that flexibility aspect because I'm a very good self-studier and I didn't really want tutoring. So having that option to kind of pick and choose what was going to work best for me was really helpful. And then for the verbal section, I only did a little bit before the first time I took the GMAT. I didn't really understand how best to improve the verbal. And I also didn't honestly take the time to go through the TTP verbal missions or chapter tests. So, I took my GMAT. I ended up scoring a 660. So it was obviously not anywhere near my goal score. It wasn't even near what I was getting on the practice tests. So that was really disappointing to me. So I figured I really needed to revamp my studying and figure out what I did wrong. So number one, I think, the verbal was a big part. I definitely procrastinated studying that. I didn't really want to study that. And so I sat down and went through the verbal missions for TTP, and that alone improved my score so much. And on the GMAT, actually, I found that improving my verbal at a certain point, my verbal score was improving my overall GMAT score a lot more than improving 1 or 2 points in quant. So, taking that note into consideration, I continued to do quant just to make sure I kept up the quant skills and just, had it fresh in my mind. But I think verbal is what I really, stuck on for that second round of my GMAT prep. And so I would really suggest, if I did it over again, I would look at both. I would not overlook the verbal. Definitely the GMAT, the verbal on the TTP coursework is very strong. I know that they recently added the reading comprehension, I believe maybe a little over a year ago or maybe 2. So, the curriculum is very new and very up to date with the current GMAT. So, I would really suggest everyone to go and look at the verbal missions just as much as you would for quant. And then they actually also have custom tests where you can actually create, depending on difficulty, depending on the types of questions, looking at verbal or quant, you can create your own custom kind of test and actually treat it as a real practice test, which I found really helpful because I would just click on all my weak points and look at the hardest questions. And that is what really helped me improve the most at the very end, I would say. So once I had, gotten all the basics down, that's what really improved, I think, my, getting me from that 700 level to that 760 level. Because a lot of what I heard when I was kind of getting that 700 level score was that, you've got all the basics down. What you can do from here on is do more of what you're doing. And to me, that was not very helpful. But then I kind of understood that what they meant was really honing in on the weakest points, or even if it's a strong point that you think you have, if in your practice questions, those are the ones you're getting wrong a little bit more than the other questions, that might be considered a weak point for you. So that's kind of how I took that piece of advice and ended up getting a 760 on my final score. So it was really exciting when I saw that screen. I was not sure if it was correct. I looked at the proctor. I was like, "Are you sure?" But in the end, I think Target Test Prep was definitely the best resource I could have had for preparing myself, and it feels really good once you're done. So definitely suggest getting your hands on Target Test Prep.